Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel, and so I'm actually going to review the Liber Astartes book, the new one, right? Now, it just as a bit of a starting, it's a very weird book. How can I explain this? For every good thing, when there is plenty of good in this, there is something that is so head-scratchingly bad, you sort of go, wait, what? What is that? So, let's start with the legions. Let's start with obviously I'm doing the loyalists, okay? Because let's start with the legions. Now, each of the legions are pretty good. I must admit, some of the stuff they got is pretty cool. If you're doing Dark Angels, you have one of the best, in my opinion, if you like collecting various different armies. Like, if you like variety in your army, Dark Angels is the one for you. You actually get 6 extra auxiliary detachments. Stormwing, Ravenwing, Firewing, Deathwing, Dreadwing, and Ironwing. And they're pretty good. I mean, they're exactly what you would think they should be. So like if you're doing Firewing, it's mostly elite and recon. Ravenwing is fast attack, but the recon has to be Outrider squadrons. Deathwing is, retinue, elites, and heavy support. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I've got to say, it really is quite interesting. And you've got you've even got a new unit in there for the Dark Angels. You've got the Dreadwing Interruptors. Maybe you'll get your own model, but we'll see. Let's have a look. Next is White Scars. White Scars have things like the Cyberhawk, Power Glaive as their own weapon. And it's got, its detachment, which is mostly fast attack, 2 fast attack. So you've got to use scimitar jet bikes and recon slots. So, and Outrider squadron. So you have to use bikes for their own detachment. It's very fluffy. It's very cool. And, their tactics is that may choose to increase the movement characteristics of any model with a special rule. And except models with a vehicle type up to an extra 2 inches. I like the fact that, like I said, they're really trying to make this a little bit more fluffy. I like. And so if we go to the next one, like I said, I'm just going through them as it's just Space Wolves, which is their detachment is 2 troops and 2 heavy support. Again. And the troops always have to be Grey Slayer packs. Models with, and their tactic is a bit less good. I don't know. Models with a special rule must add 2 inches to the distance of any setup move to a maximum of 6 inches, right? So, and it's not as good but as the other ones, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, they want to get close to the army. That's what it is, the enemy. And I mean, the lore is exactly the same as the last one. It's basically what the army is, their shield, their heraldry, what their army looks like. The models are pretty much the same ones. Imperial Fists suck, but let's see what they have. Right, this is where it starts getting weird. Like, the Space Wolf one isn't bad. Like, it's got a weird tactic. But, they got the Castellan. Okay? And rather than being what you would think would be they're meant to be, swordsmen, but they have heavy weapons. Heavy bolter, autocannon, and Elastius or assault cannon. And that's for a Centurion model. And, you exchange your bolter for one of those. So free. Again, it's kind of weird for that. Their detachment is troops, which have to be breachers, heavy support, and a support unit. Okay. Shooting attacks, models with their tactic, add +1 to result of hit tests for attacks in any fire groups. Okay, pretty much a muchness. So that's the Imperial Fist, and it's weird that the dude who's meant to be a swordsman suddenly has a big heavy weapon instead of. And it's like, wait, why would you do that? Why would you make your basic swordsman now carry a heavy weapon? Like, there's some weird stuff. Blood Angels is 2 troops, 2 elites, which is good because the elite slots have to be Dawnbreaker cohort. And any move which they made a charge move, any turn that made a charge move, models with a special rule, has a +1 to their strength. You know, that's their tactics. And again, it's quite good, but it's what Blood Angels would be. And so, yeah, I've got to say, like I said, this is very good. There is the Iron Hands. You can take an extra, you can add an additional war engine to your army. And that's cool. So that means that you can get an extra detachment, which is basically another dreadnought. They have what I think is one of the best auxiliary detachments, which is a heavy support, a tank, heavy transport, and heavy support. I should say. Well, he said that. Sorry. But it has to be a Land Raider carrier. So Spartan it's a Land Raider carrier. So Spartan, which is good because it goes with the Gorgons. And they also have a Medusan Vanguard Apex attachment, which again is pretty good, which is heavy support, another dreadnought, a support unit, and a command. Which means you get another detachment on top of that one as well. So it's not really costing you a detachment if you put a command in there, such as Centurion. The range strike for attacks made part of a shooting attack are modified by -1 when resolving runes tests. A unit includes models with this special rule. Now that's a bit confusing. So basically, this is when you're being shot at, and when you're rolling into wound, you got -1 from that. So it's a little bit better. It shows how tough they are. You get the Lord of Automata, which is a great thing. It means you can have a castle axe. And where is it? With the Medusan, the command slot has to be a Pravian unit, right? So you actually get 2 detachments with that one. You get the extra detachment for being, you know, a command unit, and then you get to take another castle axe with that for being a Pravian. Ultramarines are 2 troops, support, and a fast attack, and the command slot has to be an Opte. I'll get to that in a minute. And their tactics are once per turn when declaring a reaction for a unit that only contains models with a special rule, the controlling player may choose to activate the tactical flexibility special rule. When they do, they modify the reaction point cost to that of reaction by -1. So basically they get a free reaction. And again, pretty cool. Kind of like, one thing is weird about this, right? And I kind of only found this with the Ultramarines so far. I might be wrong. But they have Remus Ventanas, right? But he's not a high command. He's just a command. So he can't have Apex. Which is weird because the Invictarius Caesarian squad is an elite. So if you've taken him as a command unit, he isn't a high command unit, which means you can't take an Invictarius unless you take a high command. Again, it's like I said, it's these things that are kind of weird. So if you take Remus Ventanus or Rubuti Gulliman, you cannot take a Invictarius unless you have a basic high command. Salamanders, they're pretty cool. They have 2 support and 2 armor, but the armor has to be Predator or Vindicators. So that's not too bad. They actually have 2 Legion Tacticus, which is cool. Which is wound tests for the first one, Promethean Endurance. Wound tests that have an unmodified result of 1 or 2 that target any unit that includes only models with this special rule are never successful, regardless of the strength characteristics of the head. Any special rules that set the target number of 4 wounds, this special rule has no effect on armor penetration rules tests. Bloodfire, a unit made entirely of models of this special rule, is unaffected by any variants of Panic special rule with weapons with a flame trait. That's cool. That means that if you use flamers or stuff like that to cause panic, it's not going to work. You only have the 1 named character, though, Vulcan. And yes, they need more named characters. And we're getting to near the end of these now. Raven Guard, there you go, the last one. Shadow Walkers is their tactic. When a unit includes only models with special rules, is the target of shooting attacks. All attacks must be made as snapshots when the distance between the closest model and attacking units is 18 inches or greater. It's like the old one from 40k. They have a decapitation cadre, which has 2 recon, 2 elites, and recon slots in this detachment only be used to select reconnaissance squads. Elite slots in this detachment may only be used by veteran assault squad or dark fury squads. Okay, so some of their detachments are quite restrictive, and others are quite open. But as I know, I mean, I've got to say, I kind of like these specials. They're kind of cool, and they've kind of made them a little bit more fluffy and a little bit more interesting. Now, when it comes to the main bit, now this is where some of the issues start rising. I'm just going to make this like a bit like a poop sandwich, by something good, something bad, something good, like that, right? First, there seems to be several editorial issues. Okay? And I gotta say editorial because it doesn't feel like these were deliberate, they're just missed out. Such as the Gorgons, they don't have their combi bolter in there. Which is weird because that's all they have. They have the Artificer Power Axe and their combi bolter. Same with the Tartarus Terminators. It feels more like a editorial issue more than an actual deliberate removal of the weapons. And then there's and most of it feels pretty much rounded with most things being exactly what you want. Some things have gone up in points and some things have gone down. They have kept to their kept to their one box thing, with Medusans being now a 5-man squad, not a 10-man squad, so you only need one. But there's like the scimitar. They removed the power weapons for that. And the lightning claws. Used to say that you could have a lightning claw for your Sky Hunter, but now it's a scimitar, and you cannot do that anymore. Which is weird. The Land Raiders are pretty cool. It looks like they've changed the name of they've changed the name for the Proteus to the Explorator. Again, weird. And it's, like I said, it's a bit weird. You got the Spartan and Dreadnoughts, they're your heavy transport. So now you got transport and heavy transport, which makes that doesn't make much sense to me. Why just keep them all as transports? It seems a little bit weird. And again, what's worse about this is that you have to use a detachment slot to use these. Then you got your Dreadnoughts, they're all under war engines. And they're all restricted to 1 per unit. Again, this is not good. It should have more than 1 per unit. It should be 3. But they said we want to get rid of talons to make it easier. No, it's 1 to 3. What makes it easier? Then you have your support, which is like your batteries, heavy support squad, and your apothecaries and your tech marines. They're in there as well. They've been moved from HQ commands to support. It makes a little bit more sense. But again, something we'll have to get to in a minute. And then you have your troops, which is basically assault, despoiler, breachers, tactical. They're all pretty much the same. Terminators pretty much stay the same as well. You've got the addition of a Saturnine. Then you've got the command squads. Now again, we've got some odd changes here. Such as the Terminator command squads don't seem to have a banner bearer. Okay? I cannot seem to see it. And of course, power weapons. It seems to be removing the whole power fist from them. Because, like I said, if you compare the Tartarus to the Cataphracta, you'll see that it feels like there's an editorial issue here. Because you have pretty much the same rules both sides, but it obviously misses any model in this unit may have its power weapon exchanged for the Legion Terminator melee weapons list, okay? Centurion, Praetorian, and this is where it gets weird, because it literally says that the Centurion can have the Vexilla or the company standard, where the Praetorian one cannot have a company standard, just has a Legion standard. But with a jump pack, Praetorians can't even have that. So there's lots of banners being removed. Then you got the command. Now this is one of the biggest issues I've seen. There is a lot of command units. And I wish I was joking, but there is a lot of command units in this book. You got the Centurion Terminator, the Octave, Damocles Command Rhino, Librarian, Legion Champion, Vigilator, Esoterist, Master of Signals, Purveyorian, Moritat, Siegebreaker, Overseer, Herald, and Chaplain. That's a lot. It looks like there's more command units than there is for retinues, elites, and heavy assault put together. And they all have got their own rules, but most of them they're pretty much of a muchness. They're all pretty much the same thing, except for weapon choices. And that's it. Most have the war gear, bolt pistol, frag and crack grenades. And, with some sort of weapon. The Esoterist has the Archaeotech pistol. The Legion Champion has a Paragon Blainer Volt type Serpenter, Nemesis rifle, and a bolt pistol for Vigilator. You see, they're pretty much all the same. It's bolt pistol plus some sort of melee choice. Centurion is bolter plus bolt pistol. Optare is bolter plus bolt pistol. Right? And, see, this is what's weird about it, is like, this didn't need so many different rules. And let's have a look. They're mostly around about the same. The Octave is 50 points. The Centurion's 80. Librarian's 85. Legion Champion's 105. Vigilator's at 95. Esoterist is 95. Master of Signals is 115. Purveyorian is 95, which is one I'd probably take. We're doing Iron Hands. Moritat is 95. Siegebreaker is 115. Herald's 100. This is 85. And Chaplain's 80. So we're around about the same amount of points. Give or take about 5 or 10. Either way. And then finally you got High Command, which is Praetor in Saturnine, Praetor in Terminator, and Praetor. Okay? There you go. And yeah, so basically most of the issues about things being removed seem more like an editorial issue more than anything else. But I have noticed some things missing, such as, I have to rebuild my jet bikes because I need to have them with something else now, because I gave them all lightning claws per the old rules. And so, yeah, it's not too bad. It just seems like either they're trying to fill out a lot in the actual datasheet side for reasons unknown to me. There's plenty of armor. You got your Predators, your Sicarian, your Kratos, your Vindicator, Aquita Bombard, Scorpius. And then you got your Lords of War, Cerberus, Heavy Tank Destroyer, Typhon, Heavy Siege Tank, Glaive Super Special Weapons Tank, Foulblade, Falchion, Thunderhawk Gunships, Sokar Stormbird, and the Mastodon. And Fast Attack has the Land Speeder, Javelin, Scimitar Jetbike, Fire Raptor, Storm Eagle, and Interceptor. Now, like I said, all vehicles are now just one model per unit, which greatly diminishes anything that you can do in the Force organization. You no longer can build squads of these things, or squadrons, or talons, which is something I thought would be which is going to be deeply missed within the game. Having 3 Terminators, or 3 tanks in a single squadron or talon is really cool, because it makes you feel like you're actually building a big army, as per the Horus Heresy was. It wasn't like 40k, things were being more restricted because of, STLs being lost and etc. And another good thing is there's very few actual free wargames. Most wargame now you have to pay for, so you do have to think about that when you're building your army. Things like the bolt pistol, chainsaw, chain axe, combat shield are free, obviously. Heavy bolters and heavy flamers on tanks are free as sponsored weapons. But pretty much everything's 5 to 20 points. 5 to 25 points. Which is kind of cool. You can also have Decurion, which is a defensor with Predator, Sicarian, and Kratos assault tanks. Allows you to do a volley with your mounted gun, which is not bad. It's nice, it's like a free reaction where you can just blast them with something like that. Okay, and you can turn your and offensive weapons in Locust to defensive weapons, again for additional points cost. Defensor is cheaper by 10 points for each one, which is 30, 20, and 30, where Locust in order is 30, 30, and 40. Now, there is an additional prime advantage if you're doing traitor loyalists. Look, I actually like this idea. It's so people could do, traitor ultimates, traitor white scars, etc. And having this in there is kind of cool because it kind of wants to branch out on, just having, not just having loyalists. You can have traitors, and there's rules for traitors in here. I wonder if the traitor one has a prime advantage for loyalist ones, but I doubt it because it doesn't. Now you've got the auxiliary detachments for the Astartes. The first one is demonic manifestation, which is 3 heavy assault slots, but they all have to be brute units from Demons of the Ruin Storm. You also have the Apothecarian delegation, the Tech Marine delegation. These to me are absolutely pointless because it has to be Apothecary or Tech Marine, and there's 6 of them in both. And that's what they have to be. Recon Demi Company, recon slots, 2 recon, 3 recon, and a fast attack. And you have to use recon squad units for the recon. Fast attack can be anything. Storm Battery is 2 heavy support and 2 armor. Support slots in the detachment may only be used by rapier battery units. Armor slots have to be Bombard or Vindicator siege tanks. They're kind of restricting these extra auxiliary detachments for no reason, And I can't see why you would want to take 6 Tech Marines or 6 Apothecaries. It's completely weird. It's one of those things, like I said, it's so head-scratchingly bad that you don't seem to understand it. And then there's this shining gem, this bit of gold with all of this, which is the Veteran Cadre, which allows you to take a retinue, elites, and it's an auxiliary, by the way, and a heavy transport. So now you can have an elite choice in your normal army. You don't need a high command to go with it, which is great because I'll be using this in my Ultramarines. And so, like I said, some of this goes from head-scratchingly bad and weird to absolutely good, great. Like, the Pravian is probably for the extra Castellax. I mean, that's perfect for Iron Hands. So it seems kind of weird that, now every single Legion can have a Castellax in there. I mean, it makes sense for later days Horus Heresy, when they were starting to use the Mechanicum and stuff for their vehicles. But, again, it's just one of those things. And having all these command choices, which are basically Centurions with extra steps, they could have just put these extra steps in its own couple of pages just to allow it to happen, and rather than having page upon page upon page of what is more or less the same thing constantly, just having it, having the extra rules written separately. It's because it feels that odd that you have this condescending side in the rulebook, explaining what dice, tape measures, etc., but then you have this, which is just weird. It feels like they have to strip down everything to the absolute bare bones just to make sure people know what's happening. And the weird thing is, we know PDS and Erratas happen, so it's going to be all changed anyway. Overall, it's not a bad book. I can't really complain that much. It's just that the bad things are so bad, they make you scratch your head. But the good stuff's so good, it sort of shines a little bit brighter. If it wasn't a necessity and it was all free to download, I would say, fine, this is great, download it. But having a £44 price tag really does sort of make me think twice about saying it's fantastic. It's too expensive for what it is, and the good stuff in it isn't worth the £44 because the bad stuff makes it worse. And the people can now having to go back to their units and their armies to, restart and remake models because little things have been removed that were constant, not only in horus heresy for the past decade, but 40k for decades prior. It doesn't roll well with me. It's not something I'm particularly fond of. However, it's not bad. It's all right. I can't say too much bad about it. It's an all right book. If you can get a PDF, just download it, to be honest with you. I can't say it's worth the £44. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you all again soon in the next one. Have a lovely time. I'll see link to Whaling Games down below if you wish to save 20% off your wargaming and everything else. And free delivery after £20. There's also Forbidden Planet with comics, DVDs, mangas, and all that. All cool stuff. There's my merchandise as well. Check that out. If you want to support me personally, there's Skyforge, good friend of mine. Give him a click, get him up your Google algorithm, and finally, Patreon, because business. Bye-bye.